All right, so today we're diving into feedback.
Feedback, yeah.
Specifically, giving and receiving feedback after presentations.
Uh,
And this can be a little awkward,
mm.
even for native English speakers.
Oh, absolutely.
So we're going to unpack a dialogue that kind of captures this perfectly.
Okay. Sounds good.
So we have two colleagues, John and Emma,
Right.
and John is giving Emma feedback on a presentation.
Makes sense.
Okay, so to make this super clear, let's hear the dialogue first. I'll be Emma. You can be John.
Okay, I'm ready.
Hi, John. Do you have a moment to discuss my presentation?
Of course, Emma. I'd be happy to give you some feedback.
Yeah, I was quite apprehensive about speaking in front of so many people.
That's understandable. Your visuals were compelling, though.
Thanks. I spent quite some time preparing those slides.
One suggestion. Try to maintain more eye contact with the audience.
I'll definitely work on that for my next presentation.
Great.
Okay, so
Yeah.
first of all, I noticed how Emma admitted to feeling apprehensive about the presentation.
Right.
Is that a common feeling?
Yeah, I mean, public speaking is consistently ranked as one of the most common fears, so it's completely relatable.
Even for native English speakers?
Even for native English speakers.
Yeah. Wow. So that's something that everyone struggles with.
Pretty much, yeah.
And it's interesting that she even took the initiative to ask for feedback.
Right, exactly. That shows she's really thinking about it and wants to improve, which is great, you
Yeah.
know, being proactive.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Especially in the workplace.
Yeah, for sure.
Now let's look at how John gives feedback.
Okay.
He says, your delivery was quite engaging, but you seemed a bit nervous at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So how is this an effective way to give feedback?
Well, he's doing something that we call balanced feedback.
Okay.
He starts with something positive. Your delivery was quite engaging, so that's a strength.
So he's not just jumping into the criticism?
Exactly. Yeah, and engaging is a really good word to use when we're talking about presentations.
Oh, yeah. What does that mean exactly?
Engaging means that it captures the audience's attention.
Okay.
And it keeps them interested.
Interesting.
So let's repeat that together. Engaging.
Engaging.
Perfect.
And I like how he then addressed her nervousness,
Mm-hmm.
but he phrases it very subtly.
Right.
He says, you seemed a bit nervous at the beginning.
Yeah.
So how does that soften the feedback?
Well, instead of just saying you seemed nervous,
Right.
he's acknowledging that, yeah, maybe at the beginning it's understandable
Okay.
to be a little nervous. And it implies that as the presentation went on, she got more comfortable.
That's great.
So it's all about the nuance.
Okay, so really quickly, let's just repeat the key phrases from John's feedback.
Okay.
So first, the positive, your delivery was quite engaging.
Your delivery was quite engaging.
And then the area for growth, you seemed a bit nervous at the beginning.
You seemed a bit nervous at the beginning.
Perfect. Okay. Now, John also mentions Emma's visuals.
Okay.
He says, your visuals were compelling.
Mm-hmm.
So what does he mean by that?
So compelling is a great word.
It is, yeah.
It means that they were very interesting and powerful.
Oh, okay.
That you just can't help but pay attention.
So it's like they were very strong.
Yeah, they were very strong, they were well designed, and they really helped to get her message across.
Okay. So compelling, meaning very strong, very effective.
Exactly.
All right. And we see that Emma was very proud of her visuals
Yeah.
because she says, thanks. I spent quite some time preparing those slides.
Right, and that's a good sign.
Yeah.
It means she understands that visuals are really important for a good presentation.
Okay. So she gets it.
She gets it.
Okay. So we've got the engaging delivery and the compelling visuals.
Right.
Now, John suggests one more thing.
Okay.
He says, try to maintain more eye contact with the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Why is eye contact so important?
Well, it helps to establish a connection with the audience.
Right.
And it makes the speaker seem more confident
Warm.
and trustworthy. Yeah, and I think this is a good point, especially for those who are learning English as a second language.
Oh, absolutely.
While good English is important, eye contact can really help to make a good impression.
Okay, so it's all about how you connect with the people listening.
Exactly.
So what are some practical tips for improving eye contact during a presentation?
Okay, well, one technique is the triangle method.
Okay.
Imagine you divide the audience into 3 sections.
Okay. Left, center, right.
Yeah, exactly. And then you make eye contact with someone in each section for a few seconds before moving on to the next.
So you're not just like scanning the room randomly.
Right. It's much more deliberate.
Okay.
So it feels more natural.
More natural.
And of course, practice makes perfect.
Practice?
Yeah. The more you practice, the less you'll have to look at your notes, and the more you can connect with your audience.
Makes sense.
And just so everyone remembers what John said,
Yeah.
try to maintain more eye contact with the audience.
Try to maintain more eye contact with the audience. Okay. Now, I thought it was really interesting how Emma didn't get defensive about the feedback. She just said, I'll definitely work on that for my next presentation.
Right. She's very receptive to the feedback, and she seems to really want to improve.
Yeah. What does this tell us about her?
Well, it shows that she's got a positive attitude and a growth mindset.
Okay.
And those are both very important in any workplace.
Yeah. So it's not always easy to receive criticism,
Oh, definitely not.
but Emma shows us how to do it gracefully
Yeah, absolutely.
with a commitment to learning.
Exactly.
Okay, so this has been really helpful.
Yeah.
I think we've covered a lot about giving and receiving feedback.
We have.
But before we continue our deep dive, I want to remind our listeners that subscribing to the channel and hitting that like button will unlock even more helpful tips and insights.
Absolutely. We've got a lot more to explore.
Yeah, we've got lots more to talk about,
Definitely.
so stay tuned.
We'll be right back. It's interesting, though, how this short dialogue kind of shows us something bigger about workplace culture.
What do you mean?
Well, it seems like John and Emma work in a place where feedback is welcomed,
Right.
it's encouraged,
Yeah.
criticism, and Emma feels okay asking for it.
Yeah, it's like they've built this foundation of trust,
Right, exactly.
which is so important for growth both individually and as a team.
Yeah, a workplace where feedback is stifled is a workplace that's probably not going to grow.
Right, it's going to stagnate.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we cultivate that kind of environment?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's something that people at all levels can struggle with.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's start with giving feedback.
Okay.
One of the most important things is to be specific.
Okay.
And to focus on behaviors.
Okay, so not personality.
Not personalities, right. So instead of saying you were boring,
Right.
which is subjective and kind of mean, you could say something like, I noticed that you read directly from the slides. Perhaps next time you could try summarizing the key points in your own words.
That's much more helpful.
Right.
Yeah, it's actionable.
Yeah.
And it's something that the person can actually change.
Exactly. And it's also a good example of how to keep your language clear and simple,
Right.
which is really important when you're talking with non-native English speakers.
Absolutely avoid using any jargon.
Yes, definitely.
Or really complex vocabulary.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
And it's important to be timely with feedback as well.
Oh, right. So don't wait weeks after the presentation.
Exactly. The sooner the better.
While it's still fresh in everyone's minds.
Yes, exactly.
So a specific focus on behavior.
Yes.
And be timely.
That's right.
That's great advice.
Okay.
Now, what about receiving feedback?
Okay.
How do we handle it well, even if it's not what we want to hear?
Okay. That's where it can get tricky.
Yeah.
It's natural to feel defensive.
Right.
But you got to remember that feedback is supposed to help us grow.
Okay.
So the key is to really listen and try to understand their perspective.
Yeah, this can be especially hard for non-native speakers.
Right.
Who might be worried about misunderstanding the feedback or not being able to express themselves clearly.
Yeah, absolutely. So in that case, don't be afraid to ask for clarification.
Right.
So if they say you spoke too quickly, you could ask, were there specific parts where you felt I rushed through the information?
Right. So asking clarifying questions can really help you understand the feedback better.
Exactly. And it shows them that you're taking it seriously.
Right.
And that you actually want to improve.
So let's repeat that key phrase.
Okay.
Can you tell me more about?
Can you tell me more about?
Perfect.
Good.
Okay, now what about those times when you receive feedback that you think is just wrong?
Oh, yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
It can be tough.
Yeah. How do you handle that without getting defensive?
Okay, well, even if you disagree, it's still important to stay calm and professional.
Okay.
So instead of just saying, no, I don't think so.
Which can be really dismissive.
Yes, very dismissive.
Yeah.
You could say that's an interesting perspective.
Okay.
Can you tell me more about what led you to that observation?
Okay, so you're keeping the conversation open.
Exactly.
And you might actually gain some valuable insight
Right. You never know.
from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, and even if you ultimately disagree,
Mm-hmm.
you can still acknowledge their feelings
Yes.
and thank them for their honesty.
Exactly. Sometimes just saying, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts with me.
Okay.
I'll definitely take them into consideration.
Yeah.
That can really help to maintain a positive relationship.
Especially in the workplace.
Absolutely. You don't want to damage relationships
Right.
just because you disagree with someone.
Yeah.
So it's all about finding that balance.
Okay, balance.
Yeah, between standing up for yourself and being open
To different perspectives.
to different perspectives, exactly. And sometimes the best thing to do is just sleep on it.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely regretted
You too.
some impulsive responses
Oh, yeah.
in the heat of the moment.
Perhaps.
So just take a breath,
Yeah.
respond
I'm
thoughtfully.
flattered. Okay, now let's talk about something else that can be challenging.
Okay.
Giving feedback to someone who's really sensitive.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely met people
Yeah.
who just take any criticism personally,
It's tough.
even if it's well-intentioned.
It is, but there are ways to approach it
Yeah.
carefully.
Yeah.
Well, first you got to choose the right time and place.
Okay, so not in public.
Not in public. No.
Not when they're already stressed.
No, definitely not. You want to schedule a private meeting
Okay.
so you can have a calm one-on-one conversation.
So setting the stage
Yeah,
for a positive interaction.
exactly. And when you're giving the feedback,
Okay.
be empathetic and understanding.
Okay.
Let them know that you get why they might be feeling sensitive. You could say something like, I know this is a sensitive area,
Okay.
but I wanted to share some observations that I think could be helpful.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
And it's a good reminder that different cultures
Yes.
can view feedback very
It's
differently.
a really important point.
Yeah.
What might seem direct and honest in one culture could be seen as harsh
Right.
or disrespectful in another.
Yeah.
So it's always good to be mindful of that.
Especially when giving feedback that could be seen as negative.
Absolutely.
Okay. So imagine you need to give feedback to someone who is sensitive
Okay.
and also a non-native English speaker.
Yeah.
How would you approach that?
In that situation, you have to be extra patient
Okay.
and choose your words very carefully.
Mhm.
I would really focus on using clear, simple language
Okay.
and avoid any idioms or expressions that could be confusing.
Right.
And it might also be helpful to say the feedback in a few different ways
Oh, okay.
to make sure they really understand.
To make sure the message is clear.
Exactly. And remember, the goal isn't to win an argument
Right.
or to prove that you're right.
Mm-hmm.
It's to help them grow and improve.
Yeah.
So be patient,
Patience.
be understanding,
I understand.
and be willing to work together to find solutions that work for everyone.
This has been so insightful. I think we've covered a lot
Yeah,
when it comes to giving and receiving feedback,
I think so.
both for native and non-native English speakers.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts before we look at some real-life examples?
Sure, just one more thing.
Okay.
I want to say that feedback is a gift.
Okay.
It's an opportunity to learn to grow
Mm-hmm.
and to become the best version of ourselves,
Yeah.
both personally and professionally.
All right.
But it's also a skill that you have to practice.
Mm.
So be patient with yourself and with others.
Okay.
And remember that even small improvements can make a big difference.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah,
Feedback is a gift.
it is.
Okay, now before we jump into those examples, I want to remind our listeners to subscribe to the channel
Yes.
for more deep dives into everyday conversations.
We'll be back in a moment to explore how these principles play out in real-world situations.
All right, so let's put all this feedback wisdom to work
Okay.
with a few real-life scenarios.
That sounds good.
So imagine you're managing a team. And one of your team members, let's call him David.
Okay, David.
He consistently gives these presentations that are packed with information, but they lack a clear storyline.
I see.
The audience often leaves feeling overwhelmed and confused.
Yeah, that's tough.
So how would you approach giving David feedback on this?
Okay, well, I would start by acknowledging his strengths.
Okay.
I'd say something like, David, I really appreciate the depth of your knowledge and the effort you put into your presentations.
Okay, so you're starting with a positive.
Exactly.
To set a supportive tone.
Yeah. Then I'd gently transition into the area for improvement. And I'd focus on the audience experience.
Right.
So I might say, I've noticed that the audience sometimes feels a bit overwhelmed by the amount of information.
Right.
I wonder if we could explore ways to streamline the content and create a clearer narrative flow.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
Because you're not just pointing out the problem.
Right.
You're inviting him to be part of the solution.
Exactly. It's a team effort.
Okay, now let's flip the script.
Okay.
Imagine you're on the receiving end of feedback, and it feels a bit off.
Okay.
Like a colleague tells you that your presentation style is too energetic.
Too energetic.
Yeah, for their taste.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah. How do you handle that?
Well, presentation style is often subjective.
Right.
What one person finds engaging, another person might find distracting.
Okay.
So I would start by acknowledging their feedback and saying that I want to understand their perspective.
Okay, so you could say, thanks for sharing your thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for ways to improve.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear more about what you found distracting about my energy level.
Perfect.
Okay.
Because by asking for clarification, you might learn something.
Right.
Maybe they felt that your energy level didn't match the tone of the presentation or that it took away from your message.
Yeah, so even feedback that feels a bit off can be a learning opportunity.
Absolutely.
And then once you understand their reasoning,
right,
you can decide if you want to change your style in the future.
Exactly.
Or if you feel like your style is authentic to you and it works for your target audience.
Right.
You can explain that to them.
Yes, but always be respectful
Of course.
of their feedback.
Okay, so it's about finding that balance.
Balance, yeah.
Taking what's useful, leaving what's not.
And staying true to yourself.
As a presenter.
That's it.
Okay, so I think that's a great takeaway for our listeners.
Yeah.
Feedback is meant to be helpful, not hurtful.
Exactly.
And if we approach it with the right mindset, it can help us grow.
Yeah.
Both personally and professionally.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been an amazing deep dive into the world of feedback.
It has.
I hope our listeners feel more confident now about giving and receiving feedback.
Me too.
And remember, feedback is a gift.
Yes.
Embrace it.
Embrace it.
Learn from it.
Learn from it.
And use it to become even better communicators.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button.
Yes, please.
For more insightful explorations into everyday conversations.
We'll see you next time.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep those conversations flowing.
Thanks for joining the conversation here at Kaz English. We hope you found it fun and informative. Don't forget to check out kazapp.uk. That's KAZAPP.uk for more tips, resources, and interactive practice. Keep exploring, keep chatting, and we'll catch up with you again soon.